check out Cajun Lights, your complete dog hunting outfitter. Tracking equipment, leashes, collars, dog supplies, and much, much more. You can find it all at CajunLights.com. And don't forget their outstanding lineup of lights. You can find it all at CajunLights.com. You know what app I use on my phone more than any other app, besides the podcast app, to listen to this here podcast? I use onX. onX Maps is the most comprehensive mapping system for hunters on the market today. I use it all the time. When I was in New Mexico, I was looking at 40,000 acres of ranch that I needed to learn. I flip open onX and just start studying the map. When I'm riding trails, I put the tracking app on. It helps me get around in strange country. I could mark water sources, food sources, bear sign, just all kinds of options within onX. You need to check out onX Maps by going to houndsmanxp.com. Click on the link on our sponsor page. You'll go right to onX Maps, and when you check out, enter the code HXP20 and you will get 20% off of your order. Know where you stand with onX. Elite nutrition products are the hottest thing on the market right now for dog and horse owners. And Houndsman XP is a dealer. You can find all their products on our website at houndsmanxp.com. Over the past 5 years, you've tuned into this podcast, and I don't take it lightly. We have built a mutual trust. And when I recommend a product, it's because I believe in it, I use it, and I'm given my seal of approval for that. I'm putting my name on that. And with Elite Nutrition products, I do trust it. I do use it. I've seen great results with their essential dogs, their pre and probiotics, their tick-borne disease treatment. It's all natural. It's a great alternative to pharmaceuticals when used appropriately. If you expect extreme performance, you need Elite Nutrition. Available from houndsmanxp.com.
I just couldn't imagine just do this for a living ever. You know, when I saw the first falcons at the first meet I went to, and back then that was crazy expensive. You know, in the economy we lived in, and I just kind of pretty much back then I remember telling my friend we'll never have birds like this, and you know it was just a dream to have a peregrine falcon. It was, you know, pretty much a whole year salary back then for us. Actually, more than that, yeah. So it was something unreachable, and yeah, a few years later, I was just breeding them.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast, and this was the last of the episodes that I got a chance to record while I was in Reno, July of last year, and this was another interesting conversation that I got a chance to have because this is definitely another one of those interesting falconry stories where, you know, someone makes, you know, their, I guess you could more or less just say their dream happen in regards to making a career out of it, and also getting a chance to relocate from another country and all that kind of good stuff. So Martin was kind enough to sit down with me and talk about his early days in falconry, growing up in what was then Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic, and which is now Czechia, of course, and he grew up in Prague and ended up making his way over to the U.S. to learn falcon breeding from Dave Jamieson, and it's a really interesting story. So I hope you've enjoyed these episodes that I've brought to you from some of the falconers that are now residing in Reno, and you've enjoyed them, and hope you enjoy this one as well. It's definitely pretty interesting. So here we go. Well, thanks for kicking your family out for an hour for me. I appreciate your time, Martin.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. How long have you been out here?
In this house since 2006, when I built it, but in the States since 1993.
Okay. Well, I guess it would probably not hurt just to go ahead and just jump right in. You know, I keep being told by all of our mutual friends that you have one of those kind of fairly unique stories, and you know, kind of your early beginnings, and you know, also being from a different country, you know, how you managed to transplant over and immigrate in, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I guess just start off by, I mean, you're from the Czech Republic,
Czech Republic,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess and technically now, I guess is what Czechia is what it's called now.
They call it Czechia, but it was Czechoslovakia when I was born there, pretty much till 1992 when I came here. So at that point, it became Czech Republic and Slovakia.
Okay. And what part of that country?
I was born in Prague and lived in a town called Kladno, right next to the Prague. Yeah.
Yeah. So Prague is one of my top, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 favorite cities.
It's a pretty nice place to visit.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked the vibe of Old Town and, you know, seeing all the old architecture. And I will say that, I believe it was St. Vitus Cathedral. Is that where's? I'm trying to think.
St. Vincent's Cathedral.
Yeah. It's in Prague Castle.
Yes.
Yes. One of the first couple of times I visited Europe, I remember there was maybe 2 times that I could remember rounding a corner down a street and just stopping. And just being like awestruck by architecture, and seeing that particular cathedral was one of the few times that I can remember just being that awestruck. It was that cool to see.
That is beautiful. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I guess do you know any other falconers that are in that country currently?
Yeah, I have a few friends still I'm in contact with, and then. Yeah, I grew up there in the falconry community for a few years before I, moved here. I started falconry in the school when I was there. I went to the forestry school. So when I was in the school, it was like a after school kind of hobby club that I was into falconry. But after school, I kind of never went to the forestry. I had a chance to start working as a falconer at the airport in Prague as a falconer.
Okay.
So it was just kind of a cool job to be paid for flying falcons and, just hunting pretty much all day long. So,
well, I remember whenever I was at Prague Castle, there was a bird of prey exhibit that they had. Someone had a golden eagle and several different species of birds. They didn't tell me who it was or what the name of the person was, but they apparently lived only about 10 or 15 minutes away from Prague Castle.
I don't know anymore. There's a lot of shows at these different castles. So I know a couple of people who do nice shows over there. Yeah. So it's pretty common.
Yeah, it seems like every other, I mean, especially in Austria and, other parts of Germany, and it seems like there's a lot of the bird of prey shows that are...
Yeah, actually, back then, before I moved here, I did a couple small shows with the friends there at the Prague Castle as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool place, but yeah, I mean, so how young were you whenever you started in falconry over there?
I wasn't that cool. I was probably 16. I started the first kestrel. So I had a kestrel for a year or two, and then while in school, I still got a goshawk. So I was flying him for a few years, even after school. When I started to work at the airport, and then we had some falcons. Back then, it was bad economy, and the falcons were really expensive over there. So it was kind of the only chance for me to get a falcon when I was able to get them through the airport. The airport paid for that. So so it was kind of nice. So I worked there for a few years and flew falcons there. And then I somehow got an idea that I wanted to learn English, and just going to the regular classes wasn't good enough, and I just was never good, just didn't do a good job studying at home. So I just decided the best way is to go somewhere for a few months just to kind of be in it, and it was a good idea. It worked, but I kind of contacted few people. I had some contacts in the States, and I somehow got hold of sent a letter eventually to Bruce Hawk in Idaho, and he kind of helped me to get together with the Dave Jamieson in Reno. And I back then didn't plan to move here. I just wanted to come for a few months to to see how they do, falcon breeding and falcons here. And I was kind of idea to, since I wanted to learn English, I wanted to be also with somebody who does falconry, just to do both things together. Mm-hmm. And so I contacted Dave back then, and he allowed me to come for a few months. So I came for 3 months. I still was employed at the airport back then. So the first year I returned from here, then I still worked at the airport for most of the year, and then I came again, and then David was able to kind of pretty much, it took a few years, but he was able to get me a green card to stay and work for him.
And so whenever you started flying birds over there, I mean, how did you end up with the airport gig? I mean,
when I was like I mentioned, when I was in the forestry school and they started to do falconry, I didn't know almost anybody, but I heard about this big falconry meet in Opočno. So me and my friend, we decided to go there. And we met more falconers, so then we became, licensed falconers over there. And then one of my friends was actually working at the airport back then, and it was a good chance to kind of get, they were hiring, so I was able to get the job there.
Okay. And whenever you were, that young and that fresh into it, and I guess just... for comparison's sake, having the experience of living for many years now here in the U.S. and then, of course, comparing like how things are here to how they are, over there. What was the government status like? I mean, at one point in time, it was mainly like more more like the communist-run government and things like that, right?
It was up till 1989, and after that, it was a free country, but struggling. It was the economy was really ruined. Mm-hmm. So, pretty much when I was finished my school, the communism fell. So when I started to work, it took a long time for economy to pick up. So back then, I remember. Well, I was making something like $50 per month, when I started work. So actually, first year I came here, it was like a lot of money to put up together to be able to afford a plane ticket to even come here.
Sure.
But it changed since then. It changed, and it's a different country there.
Well, and at the time, I mean, did you have to have permits to be able to fly birds?
Yeah, it was pretty well organized. There was a falconry club with a good tradition. And they did licensing, and they did pretty well the exams and apprenticeships and everything. Pretty much like here. It was not that much different.
Yeah, and that's like I said. Anytime I talk to people that are from different countries, and I don't think I've officially done an episode with anybody yet that's from that particular country. So, I mean. I've talked to people from Mexico, UK, South Africa, different areas, but I'm always really interested to touch on the different logistics that go into how to get into falconry and stuff, and how that works in different countries. So I didn't know if there were any extra hurdles or if it was any harder or easier or whatever to get into it than it is like here in the U.S. So.
No, I think being licensed falconer is kind of same procedure almost, but then for the falconer it's a bit different. When you want to go hunting. It's maybe a little bit more freedom here still. You get more open spaces and over there, I don't know how to say it. It's like all the hunting grounds are managed by these hunting clubs. Mm-hmm. So you cannot really show up like as a falconer just to go start catching their pheasants. So I guess I didn't live there, for a long time, but I think you can get some kind of agreement to kind of be able to hunt or. There's it's a small country, but they have a lot of pretty active falconry clubs, and they organize these falconry meets pretty much every weekend through the fall and winter. So that's kind of a good opportunity for the falconers just to go to the meets, but you are not hunting on your own, but you get a chance to meet the friends, and it's more like a group thing there. So you go hunting as a group, and but that's pretty much every week there's a bunch of meets through the whole Czech Republic.
And for you, I mean, what were at the time any of the extra like hurdles or like how hard was it for you to find spots to hunt like as a kid like that?
I kind of didn't do that much because the few years I was there as an active falconer, like I said, I was at the airport, so we were pretty free. It was like the most freedom we could have ever there.
It's already kind of built in.
Just to hunt there, we were allowed to. The airport had big grounds, and we were just allowed to hunt there, which was great. It was like a dream job over there.
And I didn't know if you kind of lived close to there, if you had to take public transportation.
Actually, when I started, when I was going to the school, was kind of. I lived in the dormitory there, so it was like a few hours away by train from my town. And back then, I remember traveling the Goshawks in the train, and it was when I started like that.
Yeah. Unhooded, I'm assuming.
And unhooded in the beginning, he was so crazy time that I was sleeping with his head under the wing, and
So it was somewhat challenging to a degree.
It was. It was. I didn't know any better, but back then,
sure,
it worked.
Well, you wanted to do it.
I wanted to do it, and
you made it work.
It was fun. I was pretty much going home for the weekends, to my town. But through the week, I was at the school. I was able to have the Goshawk there with me, and just fly it, and it was not bad.
Well, I mean, it's. I mean, we discuss a lot where, there's always hurdles to some degree, I think, for a lot of people. But, I mean, it's kind of like another prime example where if you want to do something bad enough, you'll find a way to make it happen.
Exactly.
So whenever how old were you? Were you, 18, 19 whenever you came over to the U.S.?
I was, 21. 21. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I heard that there was some interesting experiences that you had, and the whole, the process of just getting across the country to get, established over here and all that kind of good stuff. So, I mean, why don't you just describe to people, kind of how that experience was like and what it was like getting resettled over here for you.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I was making $50 a month, and I had to borrow money back then from my girlfriend, and it was a lot of money I had to put up for the plane ticket. And back then, obviously, the cheapest ticket was just fly to New York, and I didn't realize how big United States is. But I kind of figure, okay, I'll go there just one time, and I want to see the whole country, and I'll take a bus, because in Europe it was kind of normal to take bus anywhere. But I had a friend, he was American, he was teaching English there in a school in our town. My mom was a teacher, so he was my age. We became friends. I was learning English from him, and he was learning Czech. And he pretty much told me that I'm crazy, that I want to take a Greyhound bus. I said, no, that'd be great, But it was 3 days. So I flew to New York, and it was the cheapest ticket I could find. And then somehow got to the Greyhound bus station and took a 3-day trip on a Greyhound. But it was not a good fun, and I kind of knew why he was warning me, but it was treacherous. The bus stations back east were not at the best places in town, and I pretty much put my bags on the bottom of the bus and didn't see it for 3 days, and I was doubting I would ever see them again. But then I got to Utah. I started to like the open country, and then Nevada, and when I got to Reno, it was nice. But actually, whole way on the bus, I was just thinking, how do I get enough money to change my ticket and fly back? Because I didn't like it at all. I didn't like what I was seeing. But when I got to Reno, and then Dave Jamieson picked me up, and I went to his place, and I started to like it then.
Well, I mean, that's pretty gutsy. A young person going completely out of their comfort zone. Doesn't know the language all that great either.
No. I was, I could barely get around. It was not good.
Yeah, I mean, that takes a lot of testicular fortitude.
I think I came for 3 months back then, and it was good experience. So next year when I came, and we decided, I decided to stay.
Okay. So it was the following year you decided to stay here permanently?
I couldn't stay, but we decided to kind of go through the legal process, and we hired a lawyer in town, and I had to go back and forth. I was still coming for next 3 years, like on a tourist visa, but after 3 years I was able to stay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, so it was a good kind of trial run for both you and him to see if you could coexist.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with my job back there. Like I said, at the airport, it was a nice job, but but it was something new and exciting to be here, and to come here and see the falcon breeding, and David had the gerfalcons, and I never really saw. I think we had actually one gerfalcon Czech Republic, passed from many people, but here he had beautiful, pairs of gers, and it was pretty exciting for me.
Yeah. Well, and real quick, the other thing I wanted to ask too, I mean, as far as, before we kind of shift over to talking more about your experiences once all that kind of kicked off and you started learning the ropes over here. One other thing I was curious about too, at least at that point in time when you were still living over there, I mean, did the country allow you all wild take at all? Was it all captive breeding?
Back then they allowed wild take of Goshawks and European spars.
Okay.
That was about it. But I think it's now not an option anymore.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I was just curious. Like I said, that things have changed so much over the years, and all you really hear about most of Europe anymore is that it's pretty much primarily just captive breeding and stuff. So
that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so you got over here and you're starting to work with Dave and learning the ropes. And I mean, what was initially like kind of the thing that you thought was the hardest to pick up on, aside from the obvious cultural stuff? But
I don't know. I was just so excited being around the falcons, and I became part of his family, and they were super nice to me. I lived with him for years, and I got into it pretty quickly here. It was nice, and I like the outdoors. I like sports, so it was Reno was a good place to be.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do? What did you do on the side for fun whenever you weren't?
I did a bunch of whitewater kayaking and windsurfing, a lot of skiing. That's what I do up till now. But so the CRs are great for skiing. So I kind of loved everything around Reno.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as far as the actual part about learning about the breeding, and I mean, I'm assuming during this time you're also pursuing some degree of personal falconry as well, right?
Yeah. I was going fly a lot with Dave in the beginning when I wasn't established. It took a few years, like I said, getting the green card, so I was going back and forth. And then I had a few falcons, so we used to go, and it was easier to find like grouse in Nevada, so we used to do some grouse hacking, which was unbelievable. And it was just something I couldn't find in Europe. Yeah.
And so did you pretty much switch your focus to flying primarily to falcons, long wings?
Yeah, long wings. Yeah. Like I mentioned, I started with the Goshawk, but it was just one I had for a few years, and it was a great bird. But when I switched to the long wings, I fell in love with those, and never went back. Yeah.
Didn't miss the accipiters at all then?
No, nothing wrong with those, but the falcons. And then since it became a job, so falcon breeding is where I was making the money, and training them was just kind of even together better.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, was it daunting at all, kind of, I don't know, managing or learning to manage or get kind of, the routine down at all? I mean, I know you were living with them at that point in time, and so I'm sure that made it easier. You weren't really having to deal with a lot of the stresses that were involved with, like, commuting or paying bills for your own place and things like that.
No, it was easy. I had some birds back then, and we used to go out, fly birds together. There was maybe a couple other falconers we used to meet, and it was, Reno was back then easier place to go and find place to fly birds. Reno got much bigger since then, but that's why I moved a little bit out of Reno now here. So we have some nice training grounds, fly a few minutes from here. But Reno is still expanding, but so far so good where we are.
And like the size of his breeding project at the time, I mean, did you have any issues initially kind of learning any of the initial, like, or getting over the initial hurdles or anything of managing like all the different, pairs of birds that he had and just kind of figuring out what you need to do?
He was one of the biggest facility back then here, but still not crazy big like some of the projects you hear about these days. But it was nice. It was just nice old facility. David was one of the original breeders in the world. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of great to learn from him, and yeah. Well,
and so how many years in total did you work for him then?
We still work together. He's kind of getting out of it now after so many years, but we have been together the whole time. I used to work for him, and now I got this place here. I got my own falcons, and we have been more like a partners since I built this place. But we still work together up till today.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't mind, just kind of go into a little bit like what the progression has been for you since you got into kind of having your own facilities, like your own project. Kind of describe how you started and up to where you are now, and just kind of talk about the growth of it a little bit.
Yeah, back then I was living with him, and then I got married, and then we got an apartment in town, but it was not good enough, to have any animals. So I was looking for some places to get out of town, like here, and I found this property. I liked it because it was pretty much where we used to come here back then to train falcons here. So I just bought a property back then for a pretty good price, and was kind of dreaming about having my own log home, so I decided to build it myself and kind of got into it. And I have no idea how I pulled it off, but I was able to, with some friends, to build it. And we started actually with the breeding chambers for the falcons. Was kind of, they were standing first, and then the house followed right after.
Yeah. Well, in this particular area and climate, it gets really hot. And there's, especially whenever you're trying to, manage jeers, especially, and some of these particular species that are difficult to manage in those kind of conditions. What I'm trying to wrap my head around how you manage that many birds. Like, every time I talk to somebody new that has these like very large, breeding programs, every person seems to have in their particular area different challenges, whether it's humidity, it's overall heat, what's been the thing you've kind of struggled with the most when it comes to that?
Pretty much like you say, the heat, the dryness is fine. It's very dry here, which is good. And, the heat, just a few months in the summer, which is like borderline, what the birds can take, but we got some nice cooling systems. They all have fans, and we got air conditionings, foam coolers, so right now. So they are doing pretty well now.
Okay. Well, what do you prefer to do as far as like incubating and stuff like that? Do you leave the eggs with the parents more? Or?
Yeah, I think the traditional way, we let them incubate for whatever, week, 10 days, and then move them to the incubator. And some birds we do second clutches, some not.
Yeah,
that's a standard procedure.
All right. Well, and if there's, with the way that you have your facilities now, if there was something that you feel like you learned that you could have maybe done better, like would you do anything different? Like if you were starting over again and like could start from scratch, wave a magic wand and kind of have things, were there any mistakes that you felt like you made throughout the
Not that much. I think I like the facility, kind of the size it is. It's big enough so I can live from that, but not too big, so I can manage it myself. Mm-hmm. I sometimes get a help for the summer, but it's still, small projects, so I can do everything myself with my wife, and it's kind of nice. So I can take care of everything myself.
I'm not sure I would call this a small project.
Yeah, it's a full-time job, but still, for one person can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you feel like your biggest market is still exporting, or do you do a lot of business here in the U.S. also?
It is. When I was working for Dave, we used to do more like domestic sales, especially the hybrids, males and stuff. It was more local falconers we used to sell to. But now, especially me, I somehow ended up with more gerfalcons, and I do some hybrids, but we got a few good customers in Middle East, and that's kind of where most of our birds go to.
And if you don't mind, I mean, this is something else I like asking breeders a lot about, especially those who do a lot of exporting to other countries, particularly like the Middle East and stuff. Like, I mean, how difficult have some of the regulations been to kind of deal with, and like, I know that those have kind of been evolving and changing over time also, but I mean, what, as far as the timing with how everything falls with, just the growth of the birds versus, I mean, we were kind of talking about outside a little bit ago, but what's the biggest challenge with that now, with dealing with all the timing and the regulations and stuff with the shipping and all that?
Yeah, just like right now in the challenge sorting out where every bird's, we got few like smaller customers, so just deciding where all my birds go to, and once we decide it, we have to apply for our CITES permits and just waiting time. And so just everything depends on how soon we can get the permits. And once we get them, then the shipping is always a challenge and always a nightmare. So every time we think we'll do it right, and there's always something goes wrong somewhere.
Yeah. And do they require you also to have all like the vet health certificates and stuff also?
Certificates is changing every year, and so getting the health certificates, we can get it from the vet, but then it goes to USDA, and then since COVID they closed the walk-in for the customer, so everything has to be done by the mail, which kind of delays the whole process. So normally we had that 10 days to kind of once the health certificate is issued, but now we are hearing that this year the Emirates where we send the birds to, they allow only up to 2 days old permits, which seems almost impossible to do in time, but somehow we'll have to do it. So it's always something different, and then changing regulations about like the shipping kennels, and it's like always something. So.
Yeah, I was talking to another breeder recently that was having some issues with that also. Like certain countries are, you mentioned like the 2-day turnaround on that, and if if they don't get the information back to you in time, well, then you got to redo the 2-day deal all over again and all that kind of stuff.
So you have to have everything lined up, from your CITES permits and the health certificates, and the airlines. Airlines are kind of pain to deal with too now. So they then take births every day, or sometimes they're changing every year. Some, I think last year one of the airlines, it was just they were taking it was just 1 day a week, but you have to align with your permits, and it's difficult. And then a couple of countries, they require the bird flu testing, which makes it even more complicated because it takes up to 1 week to get the results. So it's a lot of challenges on the way always.
I was going to say, it sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, so the season is kind of like a lot of steps to get through. You start with those eggs, and once you hatch them, you're happy, but it's not ever. You have to raise them, keep them alive and healthy, and then get through this shipping process. It's just a nightmare.
Yeah, it sounds extremely. It sounds like something I would just really not have the patience for at all.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
Have you ever thought about, just what you would do if you just finally decided, man, this just sucks. This just isn't worth it anymore. Like what?
Years ago, I tried for a couple of years, like a bird show. I kind of enjoyed it, but I didn't want to move out of Reno, so Reno just wasn't big enough market. There's a little zoo here in Reno, so we did a show there for a few years, and I enjoyed it. Like, it was like a challenge. I tried like a lot of free flying, nice flying birds. It was great, but I didn't think I'd make any money on it. But I thought about doing that, but I would have to move somewhere where I would have bigger audience. And then, if I wouldn't do the falconry, I would have to probably be in the forestry, like what I studied, or
I don't know. I don't even know if think's right. I kind of fantasize about sometimes what other things I could possibly do for a career change sometimes. Cause, I mean, it's just, we let ourselves kind of get into those stages sometimes where like the grass is always greener on the other side, so to speak. But I mean, it sounds like though that it's not something that you really have to really consider or worry about anytime soon. I mean,
I'm pretty invested in what I'm doing. So with what we build here, so hopefully we can survive in what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so let's talk about your personal, falconry a little bit more then. I mean, what, over these past years living in the U.S., I mean, what have you been primarily flying and hunting?
I mentioned we used to do the grouse hawking, and then I had a really nice jerkin that I did, flew in for a few years, and it was probably the most excitement I get in the falconry, flying him on the grouse with a good dog. And then I had a hybrid for years, switched pretty much to the duck hawking. So just if you wanted to find something closer to Reno within a couple of hours, the duck hawking was the only thing to do here. And I did that for years, but last few years didn't do much of anything because you could see I got small kids, and between the falcons and the kids, I didn't have much time to really get going any falcon lately.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it might have timed out conveniently enough for you anyway, especially on the duck side of things with the with the avian influenza
exactly.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, you having to have shifted gears and kind of started doing, in the process of starting doing something new once you got over here and everything, like as far as, I mean, the type of quarry and the type of birds that you started to fly, I mean, did you fly something else first, or was it pretty much jeers like initially, or was there a transition phase in there somewhere?
Yeah, pretty much I started with the jeer here, and when I could, and in the beginning I was just going out with Dave with his birds, but then I had the jeers and then a hybrid, and pretty much just long wings.
Yeah. And I mean, was there anything, or has there been anything? I mean, I don't know how much of a chance you've really, with everything that you've had going on, I don't know how much of a chance you've really had to get into other parts of the country to see falconry in other areas and stuff.
Not that much lately. Years ago, I used to go to the meets and see, so some prairie chicken hunting, and went to a few NAFA meets, but lately didn't have much time to go anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, what other forms of falconry do you feel like you wish you could have done that you haven't really gotten a chance to do yet?
I think I like the best the grouse hawking. It was kind of between flying a high flying falcon and the grouse and working the ducks. It doesn't get much better.
Yeah. Well, and out of curiosity then too, I mean, everybody's got their opinion also on what like favorite breed of dog they like to run and stuff also. But I mean, what's been your favorite dog to use in falconry?
Since I got to Dave's, he had English pointers, and I started to train his back then. I pretty much kind of was working with his dogs. I kind of almost stole his dogs always. So I trained his dogs, and so it was always English pointers. But we just don't have it now. We just lost one last year. But for grouse hawking, they were the best.
And as far as, I mean, was there any other breeds that you thought that you might like to have eventually?
I always like English setters, English pointers, and when I was back in Czech Republic, I had a dachshund. It was my first dog, first animal I had. Yeah.
Well, I don't. Yeah, you're barking up the right tree there, because I've become a dachshund guy myself.
Okay.
I've dedicated a large part of some of the episodes that I've done, and I've done like basically a whole ongoing series based on dachshunds. And,
they're great dogs, but not so much for the long-winged falconry, but great friends. Yeah.
Well, and whenever you're running dachshunds over there, I mean, what was it, the standard or was it mini or?
I just had the wire hair dachshund actually, and then. When I went to the States, my parents kept the dog, and since then they had like a third one by now. So my parents, they come here every year, so they still come with the dachshund, but now they got the miniature by her. So we have a dachshund here every year, but just a kind of family dog, not for hunting.
Oh, well, we'll have to change that.
Yeah.
I pulling in your drive here, I saw like 3 rabbits running around. You need to have you another dachshund in your life.
Yeah. There's a lot of rabbits coming here. It's like a little oasis here. Yeah. I never have to cut my lawn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know at least I don't know 3 or 4 people that are still breeding dachshunds for falconry and stuff. We'll have to get you hooked up, man. You need another one. You need to go ahead and get you another dirt hawk.
Yeah, I love them, and we are planning to get one day English pointer again, and probably Hungarian Vizsla. I always like them. Never got one, but that's the one I'm planning to get.
I've got 2 Vizslas also.
Oh, you do?
So,
okay, very good.
Yeah. They're a good dog. Also, they'd be pretty. I think they'd be pretty good out here. Also, unfortunately, I wish that I could have utilized them more where I'm at. Well, I mean, whenever you start looking in your search whenever you start searching around for Vizslas, let me know. I'll point you in a couple people also, and if you don't have anybody in mind already.
I don't have anybody right now. Years ago, I was a few friends here. They wanted some European Vizslas. I was able to find a few Vizslas in Europe, like from the top breeding lines. So I brought actually a few of them here with me when I was flying back and forth. So I brought a few Vizslas to the States, but we'll be looking for one pretty soon.
I'm gonna say, I mean, there's a few people that I know that breed them here in the U.S. And then when I was down in Mexico, I met some of the guys down there that primarily run them and breed them also. And a lot of their lines come from the true Hungarian, like the European lines and stuff. So nice big stout dogs. We'll get you hooked up. It's fine.
Good.
Well, so yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're a pretty content guy then. You pretty much feel like you've accomplished a lot of what you really wanted to. And
yeah, it was a long process, and somehow, I'm pretty much happy with what we have here right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what have been some of your more memorable, hunting experiences or flights then? I mean, just in the times that you've, practiced falconry, and I know you've kind of been a little out of it the last couple of years because of other obligations and everything, but over the years, flying, it could be your early years or flying the falcons over here. I mean, what have been some of your more, I don't know, the favorite memories that have stuck out?
Yeah, I had the best one with my silver jerk, and I used to fly on grouse. Some of the flights I remember till today, and then the jerk used to fly in the really high winds really well, and I remember some nice points, with the jerk and over 1,000 feet, and killing them, barely making it, staying on the same spot in the high winds, and getting on the grouse. It was unbelievable.
Nice.
Well, and I had him for years. He was like the best bird I ever had, and one of the best I ever saw.
How many years ago was that?
It was,
or how many years, I should say. Let me rephrase that. How many years did you have that bird?
I had him for 4 or 5 seasons of flying him, and then I put him for breeding. Yeah.
Is he still out there?
No, he just died last year. Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
Old age. Yeah.
Well, how many years old was he when he died?
He was 19, I think. Yeah.
19.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that was it, and then I saw some nice flights in the Middle East. They have the different style of hunting. So I used to go there, hunt with our customers. So there was some pretty nice flights. Hard to believe on no bars, like super high in the sky, like long flights. Like you could barely see the birds. Like 1,500, 2,000 feet. After Hobart, it was.
And it's pretty much mainly like pursuit style chasing over there.
Pursuit is different, but a lot of the flights are not so exciting, and it ends up on the ground. So that's a lot of them you see like that, but some of them can go high on the sky for a long time, and those pretty exciting flights as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the kind of, I guess, the predicament that they have themselves in over there. I mean, I know that there are some people that still are able to hunt over there because of their like Kubara, conservation efforts and all that. But that's something I thought would be interesting to check out.
Yeah,
sometime.
it's getting difficult for them to find places to go hunt. It was some time ago. I was there 20 years ago or so, but I used to go to Saudi Arabia in the north, so we were still finding a bunch of bars every day. But even back then, it was kind of getting a little bit difficult for them. Yeah, the hobara back then was getting so rare to find that I remember was the one bird that we actually used to train the falcons here for them. But, we used to shoot them late back then, so we used to train them with the balloons, and then we were training them with some pheasants. So when they got them, they used to go pretty much hunt right away, within a week or two. So I went with the falcons and we went hunting, and it was one of the birds I trained. It was one of the best birds we had here. And I was just so excited to see the nice flight, and the bird was going 1,500 feet on the sky after the hobara for a long time. And I didn't have binoculars somehow. So all these guys around me watching with the binoculars, this high flight, and suddenly I couldn't see them anymore. And I'm watching, and suddenly they put it down. I said, okay, what happened? Where's the falcon? And they said they broke up. The falcon couldn't catch it. I said, okay, where's the falcon? I said, we didn't watch the falcon. We watched the hobara. Everybody watched just the hobara because the hobara was so rare to find. They wanted to see where the hobara goes and lands. So nobody cared about the falcon. And yeah, it was kind of eye opener.
That's interesting.
It was a little bit different than what I was expecting.
Yeah, well, that tells you something, I guess. If your quarry has gotten to be so rare,
it was starting to get so rare back then. Yeah, that they need to find the hobara again, and fly the next falcon, the same bird.
Well, and have there been any other experiences like that where you've gotten a chance to see falconry in any other countries or anything?
Yeah, I did see Europeans meet. The kind of the mix meets with the goshawks and eagles and falcons, and and then there's some falconry here, some in the Middle East.
And I mean, out of curiosity, what's been like the favorite experience that you've, or the coolest thing out of all those that you've seen? I mean, I know that you're probably partial to hear because
that's true. That's
but I mean, I didn't know if everybody sometimes has a, even though if it might be a one-time deal or whatever. I mean, sometimes people think that that one experience that they've seen in another country or something was the neatest thing they've gotten a chance to see. But
yeah, I think on top of the list is the high-flying falcons, and the open spaces here was the best place to do it, and that's where I saw the best flying falcons is here.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like I said, I am always happy for people, whenever I meet them and they don't, like I said, they don't seem to be unhappy with their current situation. I mean, there's a lot of falconers, I think, that wish that they could have other things and stuff. And
yeah, obviously it's like everywhere. Yeah, you wish you would have more game around where you live. That's the bad part here, that the Reno, spread it out, and there's not. We still have open spaces, but there's just no quarry here, especially for longwings. So the only thing that you get a chance to find is some ducks, but then you got a bird problem with the avian influenza, and then for grouse you just have to go just pretty much for a few day trips from here. You can't just go and return the same day anymore.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
Well, that's why you need to go ahead and just either get you another goss again or something, or get you another dirt hawk, and once you pair it with that dachshund you're going to end up with eventually, then you'll be able to get into more fun here. You could just you don't have to go anywhere; just go right in your front yard over here.
That's true. That would be the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, and real quick before I get the last kind of closing sentiments from you here, I mean, out of all the forms of falconry that are practiced with different, types of birds and quarry and all that, I mean, is there anything that you think that would be cool to see that you haven't had a chance to see yet in the different parts of the world? Or
If anything, I would like to see the traditional red grouse hunting in Scotland, maybe, because that's the same same idea, just high flying falcons and grouse. When I was in Europe before I got here, the best we could do is some high flying falcons on partridges, Hungarian partridge and pheasants, but the grouse is the top of the list.
Well, yeah, that's on my list also. There's still so much stuff that I want to see in different parts of the world. I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to hit them all, but I'm gonna try anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting flights. I used to enjoy. I forgot about it. We used to do a lot of rook hawking with the sakers and some hybrids. So it was kind of pretty common back then in Europe to do as well, which was pursuit flight from fist, but pretty exciting flights as well. But
yeah, I don't know much about rook hawking. I mean, I've heard some about it, but I mean,
there's some, when we had some nice open fields and there was like pretty exciting ringing flights up to the sky and kind of similar what they do Middle East for the Hobara as well, but I still of course prefer the high pitch flights.
I really wish that I could make it over to some of these other countries and see more. I mean, I'm trying my best to get in a position to do that, but I mean, it sounds like you've had a pretty well-rounded, experience in your life as far as different aspects of falconry, and like I said, I mean, it sounds like you keep yourself plenty busy here. So
yeah, definitely, this is the time of the year when it's for pretty much 6 months and we're busy. Have time for nothing else. Yeah, we are a little bit burned out at the end of this, every season, but.
Well, I mean, it's just like, talking to all my other friends, they say the same thing. It's like 4 months basically of being almost like your own version of like Stockholm syndrome or something, where you're just kind of trapped. You're just trapped and kind of chained to the birds and stuff, because you kind of have to be.
But I still enjoy it. It's still a better job than anything else I can imagine.
I can imagine, but yeah. Well, and real quick before we get your final like sentiment piece of advice or whatever, out of curiosity, just thinking back, I mean, whenever you were getting into falcon, I mean, whether it's at the airport or other aspects of hunting that you did whenever you're back over, I mean, what was one of your favorite memories from hunting over there as a younger kid and stuff?
I just couldn't imagine just do this for a living ever. When I saw the first falcons at the first meet I went to, and back then there was crazy expensive, in the economy we lived in, and I just kind of pretty much back then I remember telling my friend we'll never have birds like this, and it was just a dream to have a peregrine falcon. It was pretty much a whole year salary back then for us. Actually, more than that. Yeah, so it was something unreachable. And a few years later, I was just breeding them, and
Was there a particular flight or a particular hunt that you remember that stuck out? Like, you remember your first catch over there?
Yeah, I had a peregrine male back then on Hans at the airport. So there was some of the nice flights back then. Yeah, when it was the first quarry, I was able to hunt from the waiting on pitch, and it was exciting. I was hooked on the long wings after that.
Nice. Well, and before we end, I'll go ahead and get I always ask people if there was a piece of advice they have to give to current or future generations of falconers and stuff. I mean, what would it be? I mean, It could be from breeding, it could be just in general. I mean, everybody always seems to have something that they think is really important to them, as far as whether it be falconry ethics or just whatever the case is. But
of course, you have to love what you do, but people do. It more becomes an issue like with the breeding, just to keep it still more fun when it's become a job, and that's the only challenge to keep. But people do it as a hobby, and these days it's just challenging to find places to do it. So you really have to think where you live, if it's even possible to do any kind of falconry. Because I know people who kind of just gave up on it because you pretty much have to change your lifestyle, move away to be able to do it right.
I guess it kind of goes back to the whole where there's a will, there's a way.
Like you said, you can modify. Like if I really want to start hunting right here, I could get a goshawk and dachshund.
Yeah, well, we'll get you back on the right track eventually. But well, Martin, like I said, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you, like I said, let me have this, almost hour with you here, and it's been enjoyable getting a chance to meet you and get to know you a little bit. And,
nice to meet you too.
Yeah, and we'll have to, I don't know, we'll have to talk more later and see what we can do about, getting you a whole new plethora of hunting partners and dogs in here. So
okay, we'll do that.
But anyway, well, thanks again, Martin. We can go ahead and call this good. I know you got other stuff you got to tend to, but
thank you.
We'll talk again soon. Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot.